Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. The Nebraska Chamber of Commerce has done some wonderful research, and I know about one portion of it. There's actually 40 different problems or challenges here in the state of Nebraska, but I'm going to tell you today about 9 of them, and these are the 9 that I believe can be fixed, can be solved, enabling companies and communities here in the state of Nebraska to grow. My name is Lynn Hinderaker, and this is WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for watching us here today. And by the way, if somebody says, kind of down on my job, and the boss doesn't seem very happy about anything or anybody, we want to take a look at this image right here and just ask yourself, what would it take? Here we go. What would it take for you to go home and talk to your spouse or your friends and saying, hey, today was a thrilling odyssey, a thrilling odyssey? What would it take? In fact, what would it take on the employee side of the thing so that the boss would say, wow, honey, today at the office, it was a thrilling odyssey. Let's think about that for a minute. And let's go back to those 40 problematic areas, again, that the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce has researched. Thank goodness. They've done a great job in identifying 40 different issues across the state of Nebraska that need to be resolved. And they're working on that as well, of course. But 9 of them I'm particularly interested in, and I do believe that the consulting firm Nebraska here in our state could possibly attack all 9 of them very successfully. So I'm going to just quickly read them off to you. I'm not going to elaborate right now, but you should be asking yourself, yeah, that makes sense, or wow, I never thought about that. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, customized workforce solutions. Now, we all know that workforce is a huge issue. It's tough to recruit people, tough to keep them and retain them. Sometimes these employees don't do what they're told. Productivity issues are always around the corner. So a customized workforce solution is particularly important. Trying to figure out, is it the management problem or is it an employee problem? Is it an environment problem? Is it an industry problem? Very, very interesting questions. But let's move on now. That's number 1. Number 2, diversity. Wow, this topic is in the news a lot these days with the new administration. They don't like the DEI concept. But other people will tell you that a diverse employee base does make it much easier to innovate, right? People with different backgrounds, they have different perspective on what the product is or the process or whatever, and they make suggestions. And most of the time, not always, but most of the time, that broadens and makes the whole solution a little more textured, so to speak, and maybe a little more durable, maybe more effective, and so on. So diversity is generally, in most people's book these days, a good thing, not a bad thing. Number 3. Now, these are 3 different words. You may think they're different, but they're not. They're kind of lumped together. They go with each other. And these 3 words are vision, strategic planning, that makes some sense, and marketing. Now, those are 3 very big words, and a lot of companies don't have all those pieces in place. Many companies don't even have a marketing department, although they may have a sales team. And there are many organizations that don't really have a vision. They maybe did years ago, but that's kind of dissipated, and the industry has gone through some changes, so they don't even talk about vision anymore. But if you have a vision and you have a marketing orientation or a marketing department, then they come together, don't they? They come together in a strategic plan that is flexible, adaptable, relevant, month by month, quarter by quarter. So those 3 words actually do go together, even though right off the bat they seem a little bit disconnected, but they are not. Number 4, embracing change that leads to innovation. Now, I'm going to eventually create a course, some kind of an educational event that talks about trends, and we'll pass out the various trends. I've been keeping track of trends that emerging in our culture and in our business industry for many, many years. But the question is, how do you latch on to a particular trend, how things are changing, identify how that is relevant to the company, of course, and then how do you adapt and how do you sell more easily because you're connected to the change that I've just spoke about. So change and innovation are closely connected because why? What's the one word that makes it all important, huh? Relevance, right? Boy, when you talk, have you ever been inside of an executive's office and they're chatting and then you bring up this point about relevance and the whole office gets quiet right away? Because they're thinking to themselves, geez, we thought we were relevant. All of a sudden we're getting the impression that we're not relevant anymore. How can we even make any value? How can we create value if we're not relevant? So it's a big deal. Now the next one, this is number 5 out of 9. All right. And these are all issues across the state of Nebraska, just so you know what we're doing here. But we believe that these are solvable problems, these 9 issues. And this is number 5, finding and keeping new customers. Now, we just mentioned marketing, but let's talk about it for just a second, because many companies will have a sales department, others will have a marketing department. Some people have a PR, of course, which exists to generate awareness, broad awareness. And some people don't have digital departments. They're not comfortable sending out emails or sending out, putting in different Facebook ads and so on. So the whole concept of finding customers and keeping them is much more difficult than it used to be, we'll say 10 or 20 years ago. And I can't tell you that I know of any one company that's got it all nailed. Everybody is experimenting. Well, we're really going into email here, but we're going to do 4 or 5 stages. But on the other hand, over here, we only do video. We use a lot of social media. We're not sure anybody ever reads the stuff or cares about what we're talking about. So it's a really interesting time in the world of getting customers and keeping them. All right. Number 6, overcoming doubt. Now, this is the first psychological element in the whole list. Overcoming doubt about your ability to grow. Think about this for just a minute. I mean, if you don't think that you can grow, right, you're probably in the wrong game or in the wrong industry, or somebody else needs to step up and provide maybe an outside perspective. By the way, that's good. But partially, maybe it's just a psychological or a philosophical point of view where you think of yourself, if you're the boss or a small business owner, and maybe you lack confidence. Maybe you've tried things and they're not working out. And so you begin to think that, oh, I'm going to be at this low level for some time and so on. So it's a very tough thing, and it's very helpful for somebody to come in from the outside and I don't want to go pump you up. That's not quite the right phrase, but let you know what your strengths really are and talk a little bit about what the future exists and is offering you. And some incredible things can happen when you look at yourself and your company through somebody else's eyes, and obviously a positive slant. All right, number 7. This is number 7 now out of 9 issues that I think are the most solvable issues here in the state of Nebraska. Number 7, diversify the local economy. Now, we used the word diversity earlier in this lineup here, talking about it inside the company, but now we're talking about diversifying the economic base, so to speak, of your company or your community in particular. Now, this is something every economic developer will tell you that they do every day. I'm always looking for companies that want to move around and expand, and we'd love to have you come be here and work in our community here and so on. But it's a lot tougher, and by the way, in Nebraska, it's even tougher yet because we don't have a broad variety of different kinds of people here in the state of Nebraska. So diversifying the local economy, and it's so important in these economies where it's mostly ag driven. People don't wake up thinking about, boy, we really need to have a company over here and we should really have all these things over here. They mostly wake up thinking, how do we make a little more money off of our core business? And it doesn't occur to them that other companies or industries would want to kind of come into their community. And this is a very big kind of a mental problem as well, by the way. So then, Now here's a big one, number 8 now out of 9, recruiting workers to live in your community. Now, this is something that, it essentially is the single biggest problem in the state of Nebraska. We talk about, well, we got tax problems. We probably wouldn't have tax problems if we had more people striving to come into the state of Nebraska. There are other issues, but I have to tell you that we need to grow our population, and yet, and don't get me on this thing, and yet we especially in certain areas, we don't want the people. We would rather not have them come here. Or we don't know about those people, and I've never seen people like that. I don't know, see? And so it becomes very difficult to grow the population of the state and certain communities and so on if you kind of have hang-ups, psychological or lifestyle barriers that prevent you from liking them or wanting them or sending the 17th email to somebody, 500 miles away and say, come take a look at our community. We'd love to have somebody like you here. And here's another thing, by the way, that I have to tell you this, that Hank Robinson brought this up a while back. He's a researcher in the area. He said, the problem is that you get these small businesses, entrepreneurs, people that are ambitious. They kind of keep their head down. They're working on their computer. They occupy a very small space in their community. And so when the chamber has a meeting or somebody else has an event or over here and so on, these young folks in particular don't get invited. It's not really something that they think about, but as a result, they don't get invited, brought into the community. They're not given positions of power or authority in any context at all. They're just doing their own little thing, and it's either working or not working. But I have to tell you, we really need to rethink how we act with these folks and how much courage it takes to come into a new community, set up a little business, and try to make money and help your family. So that's a really interesting and complicated core topic, is recruiting and retaining workers. And then finally, we talked before about customized workforce solutions. I want to flip over and say workforce training for managers, a key issue. Many managers think they're doing everything they should be doing. They're telling these kids to get in business, get over there, do better. You got to work harder, blah, blah, blah. You talk to the young workers, they're leaving out as they walk out the door. They got, that guy's a jerk. I'd never want to work for him again, etc. So this goes on all the time, and you bring that information to the owners or the bosses, and they're like, What? Hey, I'm just doing my job. I don't know why in the world they got an attitude, blah, blah, blah. And so it goes on and on and on and on and on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, needs to be solved and can be solved in the near future. I have to tell you that. So those are 9 solvable issues right here in the state of Nebraska. And thanks for hanging out with me today at WowBiz Nebraska. This is Lynn Hinderaker. And I'm going to slip over to a related topic. This is going to be our promotional sponsor here, kind of in the middle of the show. And I'm sure all of you are aware that at a certain point, we were just talking a second ago about employees and the difficulties with turnover and attracting the right reliable people and so on, and people don't seem to like it so much. Did I tell you that 70% of employees right now are planning on leaving or making some plans, looking around? They're not committed to their job or to their existing company. That's a very interesting thing. So here's a system. This show is brought to you by an organization. This is a program that Nebraska developed for this problem we just discussed called Future Force. Future Force is a system designed to educate not only the employees and be a coach to them and a mentor in certain ways, but also to the managers. And this is a unique thing. When John Albin, who heads up the labor department here in the state of Nebraska, we told him that we were going to be working with the managers as thoroughly as we are working for the employees in these organizations across the state. And there are many of them, manufacturers, distributors, and so on. And Mr. Albin said, well, that makes sense to me. That's unusual. I've never heard of any outside player, consultant or whatever, providing coaching to managers and department heads, supervisors and so on. as much as they do to the employees, especially the young ones as well. So he said, I think you're on the right track there. And I think we are on the right track. So if you know any manufacturer, distributor, organizations that have 100, 200, 300 people or more, you need to let the people at Nebraska know. And you say, let's talk about Future Force. Future Force is a dynamite word. People are attracted to it because they know they have got to solve these problems for the future to even exist. They don't have a future if they cannot deal in a healthy way, whether it's wellness, sustainability, social responsibility, all these issues that yesterday's bosses and owners really had never even thought about, really never even gave any of those ideas concern. We just pay them well, we give them some insurance, they should be thrilled. And that's not how it works these days with Gen Y or in particular Gen Z. So there you go. Look out for Future Force and contact Nebraska if you happen to know somebody who's looking for some help in the recruiting, training, and retention area, employee development. Wow. Future Force, what a cool word, huh? What a cool word. There's so many people that can relate to that word. Listen, I'll have to tell you something. One of the main issues here in the state of Nebraska, and people are becoming intrigued about this. They hear this word and they're wondering, what does it really mean? Some people say, well, it's an architectural thing. And another person says, well, that's not really true. It could be interior design or landscaping, right? Right? And then somebody else says, none of you have it right, or at least you've forgotten about one main thing, and that is 50 million workers in America today are looking for a job. They want to work someplace. And by the way, a lot of them would like to be a big fish in a small pond. This is an interesting point and a sidebar, but there's a lot of people in Nebraska who say, well, nobody's going to come here. Nobody wants to come to our community. It's so small. We haven't grown very much and so on. I don't know. What are we supposed to be getting excited about, you know? But the key word, as you probably recall or know, is a word that's on the front cover here of a brand new booklet that's just been recently released, and it's called Urban Natural. That's the word, Urban Natural. And this, of course, says Urban Natural America. Now, if you just give yourself 20 seconds here and think to yourself, Urban Natural, that's an interesting word, right? It is an interesting word because it brings opposites together. And at this point in time in our history and our culture, there could be no better thing than bringing opposites together, whether it's rural and urban people, all kinds of different people that have different point of view, but here they are pulled together in one word. And I'm sure you can see it right now, and they're thinking, well, what about that? And now you haven't heard the whole story, so I've got to be very quick here because this is a big story. This is a story that frankly has to be told in front of national trade groups, associations, construction companies, and so on. And that is the issue. And by the way, Frank Lloyd Wright was close. He was this close to this idea that I'm going to share with you right now, which is as follows. In 1981, two scientists, and this is a pure accident that I found out about this, two scientists had worked for 30 years, and they had shown to human beings, all kinds of people that they brought in, measured their brains and their neurological path. This is about neurology and neuroscience. I'm sure you've heard of the general idea, but it just has to do with the way your brain works. And they've measured, when you look at two opposites, the brain goes, oh, novelty. Novelty is the key, right? When we're looking at a wall that's completely black, it's kind of boring to look at the whole wall. It's completely black. And then all of a sudden, whiteness, whatever, comes in right next to the black. And there's this area where these two opposite things come together, don't they? You're listening to me right now. You're seeing where I'm going here. And so our eyes go right to the point where the opposites attract. And it sparks an energetic flow. I don't want to use the word a spark. That's not quite right. But it goes into the brain. It's an impulse, let's say. An energetic impulse goes into the brain, back to the visual cortex in the back of the human brain. This is for everybody, by the way. And that scintillates and releases dopamine, which is a hormone, of course, into your brain. Everybody does this because novelty is a stimulant, and the stimulants leads to this, I'll say, a pleasant mood, right? An upbeat mood. It's not oxytocin or serotonin or testosterone. Those are other hormones that have interesting implications about what they provoke in the human body. But dopamine in particular, and endorphins as well, by the way, make us all feel just a little bit better, just a little bit more calm, more present. If you've ever tried to take a bath in very, very cold water and stay in that water for 5 minutes or so, when you get out, you'll have a dopamine rush in your body and in your brain, and you'll feel incredibly relaxed and calm, but not sleepy at all. This is a very interesting thing. Most people don't know it and have difficulty struggling with thinking about this, but opposites now, and we're talking about urban and natural, of course, are opposite words. Talk about natural, that would be rural, organic, green, slow. Urban would be fast, concrete, technology, And you take these two together. So when I look at the side of a building and I see wood right next to, we'll say aluminum, that would be a great example, or glass, any synthetic material right next to an organic, like a rough piece of wood or whatever, we have the same thing. I just described that just a second ago. So that has huge implications for economic developers, marketers, anybody who says, hey, come to Omaha. We've got a new area here and a new building, and we're doing this, we're making it special. The landscaping's incredible, and there's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of opposites. We have flowing water right next to concrete walls. Well, you couldn't think of two things more opposite, could you? And so it goes. Art, by the way, also fits into this thing, considering the fact that they're significantly different from each other. All right, anyway, I'd probably beat that horse to death, but it's a very exciting, by now you're shaking your head going, oh my God, what are the implications of this? What are the implications of this? Now all of a sudden communities that have never succeeded in attracting young people to come and live there and have families and so on can revitalize downtown Wayne or Beatrice or Fairbury or Alliance or whatever. I mean, all of those areas, historical in many cases, and not much happening there. A lot of people don't seem to want to live there or whatever, but this could all be the catalyst, the realization that I'm sharing with you right now. All right, so that is Urban Natural Nebraska. That is Urban Natural America. And it's pretty exciting, and it leads us to other interesting realizations. By the way, Frank Lloyd Wright said this. He said, the purpose of life, living. Now, we're talking about a very unusual and extremely talented man. He said, it is up to you. Once you realize what you're capable of and you see this contrast, even he understood this without doing it scientifically. And he said, it's up to you to make your own world. This is it. Make your own world. It's up to you. You have to, once you recognize the power that you have as a human being and the authentic power that is available to you, and I've just alluded to that in a number of different ways, it's up to you to create your own world. And he was, of course, talking about, buildings, homes, etc. Listen, here's an interesting thing. What if you get a bunch of people together that are urban natural? And by the way, they do skew young. We're talking about people in their 20s and 30s, maybe in their 40s as well. These are the people that are looking for a new home or actually looking to rehab an old home. These are the people that are excited by AI, software development. And by the way, not everybody is. I think I told you a few weeks ago that according to Gallup, 35% of all people on the planet will tell you that they are doomed. Think about this. Doomed. Their attitude, I think, is AI is going to put us out of a job. It does all the work for us now. What are we going to do? We're not going to make any money. We're going to starve. We're going to be dying. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's what's going to happen to us now that AI technology is in place and being implemented everywhere. And so think about the world that we live in right now. It's not just about world wars. It's not just about a different administration. It's not just about climate change, which seems to be creeping up on us incessantly. But it's really about the mentality that we have. We don't know how to turn these things into a positive. And we become, when we're fearful, of course, we get scared about ourselves, right? We start thinking about ourselves more than other people. But what if a company or an organization or this Nebraska organization, whatever, could pull people together and do something kind of special, maybe form a coalition where what I give you and help you becomes ammunition for me. Now, I know that's kind of an old-fashioned idea, but really it might be a very new and hip idea right now. I've got this interesting, I'm going to read this, about integration. It's a quote. It says, in each evolutionary being, that would be us, there is a unification and harmonization of the parts in service of the health and transformation of the whole. Let me say that again. And when I say being, let's talk about each individual right now, all right? In each evolutionary being, there is a unification and harmonization of the parts in service of the health and transformation of the whole. Wow, wow. Now, what if we were competing with a state like Utah or Idaho or North Carolina, and they're all going, hey, come over here, we're hot, we're cool, we do things great, you know, you'll love it over here and make a lot of money, be good for you. We'd love to see you, right? But the people in Nebraska have a new message, right? They have a new message about the transformation of the whole state and all the people that are inside of it. A new mindset, a new way to think about the future and about themselves. My goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. WowBiz Nebraska is always a catalyst for fresh thinking, new strategy, ambition. We have an opportunity now. We've learned things we didn't know before. This is the opportunity for us to pull together, harmonize, integrate, unify, do some exciting things, transcend our previous barriers. I'll see you next time. I'm Lynn Hinderaker, and I will look forward to you. See you next time. Talk about the points today. That's a conversation that will never end. Thanks again.